I'm Yoko.
And I'm Nox.
And this is
the RNS Podcast.
Dun dun! Because she was the Law and Order theme, so dun dun!
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, but specifically SVU. I want Law and Order SVU's theme
All
song.
Law and Orders are the same to me.
No, SVU has a special place in everybody's heart.
That's a lie.
If you don't stand Olivia Benson, yes, SVU. That's the Law and Order.
That's the one I know.
That's the one that rips things straight from the freaking headlines and just makes it a mess. And it's the best thing ever. Oh my god.
Welcome to the RNS Podcast.
Oh my god, my Joker laugh. Here we go.
I'm Yoko.
I'm Nox. And we still said this wrong. This is the second take. Okay.
You know what? We're rolling with it.
We're keeping it this time?
We're rolling with it.
Okay, well, shouldn't say welcome back because this is our first episode. So welcome to the RNS Podcast. And
RNS.
what does RNS stand for, Yoko?
Random Nerd Stuff. Stuff's good, right? Yeah, stuff.
If you're purposely bleeping out, I told you I spend my entire day of my actual life, the real world, not cursing. I'm going to just say shit. So, random nerdy shit is what it stands for. And not that we're going to be talking about shit, but, we're talking about shit. About
not
stuff.
today, because today we're not talking about shit. We're talking about Joker.
Ah.
And that, ooh, boy, let me tell you, this movie.
So, well...
Spoilers.
Yeah, we should start by saying this is going to be a
spoiler-filled
review.
We have just came back from seeing Joker, and my short-term memory is not the best, so I'm knocking this out of the way right quick.
Yeah, so we actually previously did what we thought the movie would be about before we saw it or anything. I tried to stay away from any reviews. So we went into it fresh, and this is just kind of our honest thoughts on everything. Now, I don't know about you. Well, I know about you, Yoko, because you just expressed it slightly on the way back that you enjoyed it thoroughly.
Oh, yeah.
I know that I walked away with a lot of jumbled thoughts, and I needed some time to write some stuff down. But
when she says time, she means an hour.
I didn't take an entire hour.
Okay.
And my thoughts still don't feel sorted, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I guess I'm glad it made me think. But let's cut to, I guess, what you thought of it. I'll let you start.
Because my answer is obvious. I loved it.
But why did you love it?
Because chaos. I mean, is there anything?
Chaos is a ladder.
Chaos is just entertaining. I get people are very, very oh, be careful with this movie. It paints them in this light, paints them in that light. I didn't see it painted. I just enjoyed the movie for what it was. Mm. And it was it's the Joker. And I really like the fact that in the end, we still don't know who he is. Mm. Because not even he knew who he was, which is really trippy.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about... Well, I have so much that I want to talk about.
Let me tell you that much. He thought he was this guy, and everything about him is a lie. His whole life, his literal whole life, everything about him is a complete and utter lie. Well,
that kind of goes as if they were borrowing from Heath Ledger's Joker, where he keeps telling two stories of his origin, but you don't know which one's truth or if it's all bullshit. It's just you don't know who he is as a character and a person, and this leads into that. It makes Arthur more sympathetic because he genuinely didn't know his own background, genuinely still doesn't know the truth about himself. but it makes him sort of an everyman. Like, because if you don't have an origin story, that means anyone can see themselves as you. Like, you could be anybody, any person.
Which is what people are going to say makes this movie dangerous.
Well, since you brought that up, I wanted to talk about, that's one of the first things I wrote down, positives and negatives as far as that's concerned. So
she's a list person.
I am very much a list person. That's why my thoughts are all a jumble and I don't feel like they're organized, but I'm going to go with what I did manage to like sort from my thoughts.
People, that's how I live my life. Thoughts a jumble and just throwing them up in the air and seeing what sticks.
And that's why you needed someone to help you start organizing said life. But I also need a little chaos in my life. It's balance.
Balance, yes, balance.
Okay, why'd you say it all creepy and weird like that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway, okay, I think we balance each other out, so it's okay. I'm gonna keep my list though. Anyway, so I one of the first talking points that I wrote down is that this is like a case study of mental illness, and I thought that was good and bad. I thought it was good and bad that they did that. The positives of it is I think that it will make people question their treatment of mentally ill people. Like, even though we have a lot more awareness now about mental illness in our society, and that a lot of people can relate to anxiety and depression and those sorts of things, there's still a stigma surrounding a lot of mental illness. There's still a lot of stigma surrounding it, and you can see that clearly in the movie. Clearly, he has a condition that's outside of his control, and I really love the use of his laugh as a form of mental illness, that it wasn't something that he could control, because that's such a classic thing about the Joker, his laugh, but they made it a part of like a neurological disorder, which is so bizarre. But I loved that use of it. I thought that was very creative and, made him different, stand out as a Joker, So I hope that this movie makes people question their treatment of people who are suffering from mental illness, because you could see sort of, quote unquote, the consequences of that, or you just, because you're watching these horrible things happen to him, and I would think most of the audience is thinking, oh man, that's terrible, I wouldn't do such a thing. However, and I'm not trying to dominate the conversation, I just want to make sure I get this thought out.
Get your thoughts out, please.
However, even as I say that,
I don't put this much thought into everything.
However, even as I say that, I hope that the audience would, they can empathize and they sympathize, but despite yourself, you're rooting for him and everything. But you would still look back and be like, oh, those jerks. I would never beat up somebody who's mentally ill like that. I would never snap at somebody who was just, trying to make my kid laugh on the bus or something. You would think that you would be better than the people who are like the other villains of the movie.
Oh, damn, kids. Yeah, you're right. Like, I would definitely never kidnap a clown's twirling sign, have him chase me through the streets, and then beat him up in an alley.
You would think you're above that, right?
You want to know why? Because I wouldn't go near the damn clown.
Okay. Again, you think you wouldn't be like that, but then at the scene where he lets the little person go, I think that is the right terminology that you're supposed to, not what they were calling them in the movie, obviously, but in the scene where he's gonna let the little person go, he just stabbed what's his face in the throat.
Forgot about the door bashing, the wall bashing.
Yes, bashed his brains out against the wall, and he says he lets him go.
You were the only one nice to me.
Yes, the audience is like horrified for a minute with the violence of it, but then, well, you're proving my point as we speak. You good, Sam?
There was a point when this comes at close to the end of the movie where his coworkers come see him after something tragic happens, and he locks the top lock. I don't know I'm pretty sure he knows what he's about to do, but it's just the irony of that. He lets the little person go, right? And the little person tries to leave, but he can't reach the top lock the chain on the top of the door to unlock.
Well, you're doing exactly what I'm about to criticize, actually. Like, I was trying to say that, again, you think you're above all doing the terrible, violent things that the other people in the movie do, how they treat people with mental illness or treat people with conditions, but I was going to say I was very uncomfortable with the scene where he's letting the little person go and the guy can't reach the top lock because the audience laughs. And we just spent over 60 minutes empathizing with a guy who is treated differently because of everything that, because of his mental illness. Because, and not that being a little person is the same as being mentally ill, but they're still ostracized. These are people who are outcasts in society, and you just spent over 60 minutes empathizing with someone who's ostracized from society, but the minute it's somebody else, the audience is like laughing. You're so willing to laugh at someone who's still ostracized by society. You empathize with the character that you're forced to empathize with, and you think you're above certain things, but you still laugh at someone who is traumatized in a moment and laughing at something that has outside of his control, that he can't reach the top lock. Like that, I thought was, at least for me, I thought that was interesting, and I felt very odd and very uncomfortable. Not really uncomfortable. I just I was very aware of the audience I was sitting in at that moment. That they were chuckling, and I was just like, why is this funny?
Because, see, you see it as that. The way I saw it was Arthur didn't mean to do it.
I know.
He did it as a way of stopping them from leaving. But after he just killed this guy, he is on the floor, he is breathing, he is just contemplating what he did, admiring his work. He legit wants to let him go, so he lets him go. But he forgot the fact that he locked the top lock. And that's why it's funny. That's why it's funny that he can't reach it, because Arthur didn't do it maliciously. He legitimately just forgot that he did on the top rope and he can't reach it. So when he has to call and say, Arthur, can you help me with the top lock? I can't reach it. And then Arthur sees it. He's like, oh God, yeah, right. Fuck, I'm sorry. And he goes to that. Now what happened after that, after Arthur realized the whole thing, that was creepy. When you weren't sure if he was actually going to let him go because he undid the top lock, and then the mood changed, and you could just feel the mood change. Just like he just was like, at first he was all friendly, like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, man, it's okay, man, go on, you can go on, and then he stops the door right as he's about to open it, and then his face changes, and just everything changes. You can see the color drain out the little person's face, and I'm just like, oh no, he's gonna kill him. He was nice to him though, and then he goes and he kisses him on the forehead and says, "You're the only person who was ever nice to me," and he lets him go. And I was just like, I'm surprised he didn't kill him. Like I'm glad that he still did that last kindness to someone who was kind to him. But I'm still surprised he let him go, because he did just kill someone in front of him. But then again, I guess he doesn't identify himself with Arthur Fleck anymore. At that point, he's just a nobody. But yeah, that's why I thought it was funny, because I could tell that Arthur didn't legitimately mean to do it.
It's not about that though. It's not about what Arthur meant to do for me. It's not that I can't see the humor in the situation. It's not that I didn't feel compelled to laugh, because it's meant to be humorous. I get it. It's not that I don't have a funny bone, I can't see the comedy. It's just that I was, because of everything that had happened in the movie so far, I was very much aware of every time the audience laughed at something Arthur did as a result of his mental illness. I was very much aware of other people in society in that movie who were, ostracized. He's the only other character that we kind of see that he's mocked by the other people, just like Arthur is at his job. He's the only other one we really see that happening to. And so for us to laugh at him, even though we kind of stopped at least a little bit laughing at Arthur because we empathize with him so much. It's just...
We didn't stop laughing at Arthur because we empathize with him. No. We stopped laughing at Arthur because the laughing turned to uncomfortableness. And that's the one word that I would describe this movie as: uncomfortable.
I also wrote that down as my one word I would describe this movie as: uncomfortable.
Movie legit puts you sometimes you laugh, sometimes you feel bad for Arthur, but most of the time you're just uncomfortable by some of the things that goes on.
Well, there's a lot of secondhand embarrassment, which I think is purposeful because he's filled with anxiety. And we're made to feel that anxiety. They force you to feel that anxiety. I literally wanted to hide behind my hair. I was just I can't watch this.
I was hiding behind my hands. I couldn't watch some of the scenes. When he was doing the stand up, I couldn't watch that. I was just oh God, no, this is.
And I was so glad. I knew that he was having a delusion, but I was so welcoming for it. I was thank you for bringing this delusion right now, because I don't want to watch you fail. I can't. It was awful.
It was so bad. Jesus.
Other things, and I thought, well, I did, like I said, I wrote down uncomfortable as my my main word to describe this movie, and it's not a bad thing to feel uncomfortable.
It's not. The movie definitely makes you think, and it definitely makes you feel things.
Well, see, that's why I know you walked away and you loved the movie.
Oh yeah.
I can't say that I love the movie. I can't say that I like the movie. I didn't dislike the movie, but I walked out with so many unsettling thoughts and feelings. They're all a jumble that I can't say that I liked it. I liked that it made me think, and I liked that it was having some message and commentary about society. But I can't say I loved it because I got so many emotions tied up in everything. That's not a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. There's just so much that I can't work out. Did I enjoy my time right now?
It's weird. It's weird because I remember when we went to see Midsummer. You loved Midsummer. You really enjoyed Midsummer.
But Midsummer
also made me feel very awkward.
Midsummer made me cry. That's an emotion. I had an emotional reaction to it. I fully empathize with the main girl because of her anxiety, and I was like, I get it, girl. I understand your level of anxiety. So I was able to relate to her. When she cried, I wanted to cry. This is a weirder situation because unlike her, who I really feel like she was just carried.
You can't laugh uncontrollably.
No, unlike her, this character, while you can empathize with him because of all the shit that he's gone through, he's still doing horrible things. So I can't root for him fully. At least I can't. So it puts me in this weird spot. How am I supposed to feel about you? It was inevitable. I knew what's going to have to happen, but I also wanted a chance for redemption for you, and no, I didn't get that. So
well, I can see at first you said you wanted redemption. The first time he actually kills someone is totally out of self-defense.
Oh, I know.
Who did he kill after that? He killed his mother after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't killed anyone for a very long time,
mm-hmm.
and his mother was the next one.
Well, I actually don't know what happened to the lady and her kid. That was left very, very vague. But yes,
I think he just left.
I don't know. That's the other thing I want to talk about. I like the other thing that makes me unsettled, and I like this part of it. I like what they did with it is that, and possibly as a reflection of mental illness, we don't know what's reality and what's not reality.
Oh,
I
yeah,
really
are we gonna touch on that?
Oh, definitely. There's several ways that I feel like they do this, this questioning reality thing. One, the back and forth thing about his origin story, Thomas Wayne's your father, Thomas Wayne's not your father. Thomas Wayne's your father, Thomas Wayne's not your father. And then, we find all this evidence that his mom was crazy, that she abused him, that she let him be abused. All this evidence that points towards that. He kills her, and then you see that photograph of his mother while she's young. Signed on the back of it, it said, "Love your smile, Thomas Wayne." So then I'm like, did they have an affair? Did he set this all up? And I'm like, what's the truth now? Did he just kill his mom for thinking that she lied to him about this thing, but she was really telling the truth the entire time?
It's just like the Joker says, multiple choice.
I don't know how I got these scars.
Multiple choice. The best thing about having no background, you have multiple choice.
Yeah, but I've just so that's one thing that threw me off. The other thing is
so we should probably talk about the mother thing though. We keep touching about how.
Well, can we come back to? I just wanted to talk about the things that throw me for a loop. So
which is
the mom thing and not knowing the origin story. The other thing is the time period when this takes place. So so the way it was filmed. I was like, okay, this is not modern day, but when is it? And so I knew I know Gotham was supposed to be like New York or whatever. And they were referencing the garbage strikes. I know that was an actual thing. Garbage men going on strike, whatever. But then I saw at the end of the movie when Bruce Wayne and his parents left the theater or whatever, it said Zorro the Gay Blade as the film that was playing. And
because they changed the rioters, they changed the thing in the riots.
But the point is that movie came out in 1981.
Well, yeah. Here's the thing. We have to go and make the parallels with basically Bruce Wayne. So what happened there is he was a kid, obviously. And this had to be 20, 30 years, right? At least 20, 30 years away, right? So that's for me is not really a non-issue, the time frame.
I'm not saying the time is an issue. I'm saying what's making you more disoriented and getting more into his mind, his mental state that it's unstable is the fact that you don't know because the time period could be the 1980s, but the shows look like they're from the 60s, like the television shows, because there's black and white still, and then there's like
because it's poverty.
yeah. Hold on, I'm not. My point is that this is all reflective of like keeping you off balance. Like it doesn't. You're not settled in one time and place. That's what I'm just trying to say. Like the movie suggests 1981, the TV show suggests the 60s, but the music playing is like 1920s, 30s, 40s, whatever music. So I'm saying all of that keeps you don't, again, goes into the whole we don't know where you're from, when you're from, that sort of thing, keeps you out of time, which I thought was interesting. I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying I thought that like that keeps you from like being settled and knowing again where he comes from and the true story of everything. So that's what I was trying to say at the time.
I guess they're trying to do it like that because, like, you don't know where exactly they're gonna place this in the DC Universe timeline. If they
I thought it was supposed to be completely separate.
It was gonna be a standalone, but come on, this movie that's having this big of an impact.
Well, he could have his own Joker origin universe. Yeah, Jokerverse. Yes, I was really hoping the next Doctor that he was gonna be talking to at the end was going to be Harley Quinn. I was really hoping.
Oh no!
And suddenly Joker has a thing for black women. Interesting. Okay, so interesting. We've never seen that represented.
Yeah, thing for black women. Yeah, thing for killing black women too.
Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry. So you wanted to talk about the mom. I'm not trying to dominate. I just want to have all my talking points on paper.
But let's see. Yes, the mother.
Mm-hmm.
Getting back to the mother. So in the beginning, as you all know, he's taking care of his mom. And his mom keeps on writing letters to Thomas Wayne saying, he is your son. And you need to help us, take care of us. We're living in squalor, basically. And at first, he doesn't know this at first. She just keeps saying, check the mail. Did he write us back yet? Did he write us back yet? And when, a certain event happens, I think it was after he killed the people, right? After he killed the people, he goes and his mom has fallen asleep on the couch watching his favorite talk show host, Robert De Niro. His favorite talk show host.
Murray,
Mr. Murray. God, I love that. So yeah, she's falling asleep and she's getting up. He just came back from his date. That's what it was. He came back from his date.
His delusion date.
We'll get to that. Should we just get to this in order of how things happen, or do we just hit the branches?
I can't because I have my little thingies, and they're not necessarily in order.
So we'll just go like this then. Okay. So then he got back from his date, and he's happy. He's dancing. He wakes her up. He starts dancing with her, and right before he puts her to bed, she's all like, "Oh, you must mail the letter. Mail the letter, please. It's important. You must mail it." And he opens the letter that she wrote, and that's when he learns, "Oh yeah, you're Bruce Wayne's, not Bruce Wayne's. You're Thomas Wayne's son." And when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, whoa, that's what they did. Oh, Bruce Wayne's brother, his own brother is the Joker. Oh." And then, in a very something way, he sneaks in to. First he has that whole scene with Bruce where he actually goes to see Bruce. He gets stopped by Alfred, or we can assume is Alfred.
I assume it was Alfred.
A younger Alfred. Or just another British butler.
Another British butler.
Because the best butlers to have are British, apparently.
That sounds like a title of a TV show and the tagline for it you just came up with. Just another British butler, because the best butlers to have are British. Oh my gosh.
Copyright. No, I'm off track now. I'm thinking about Black Butler. Shoot.
Oh my gosh.
Bassett.
Okay, Yoko, you were trying to make a point about the mom and you recapped something, but I don't know where you're going with it.
Again, like I said,
look, you disrupted your own self this time. I did nothing to contribute to this.
Oh, where was I?
I have no freaking clue. You keep saying you want to talk about the mom, and I don't know what you're trying to talk about with her.
I'm trying to tell you what happens. That whole chain of yeah. So the whole Alfred thing, how Alfred and Bruce thing happens. So then he somehow sneaks into this presentation or something, or
Yeah,
I don't know.
They're watching like a
They were watching a movie. Remember,
yeah,
that's
like
when
a
I got up
Charlie
and got.
Chaplin film or something. I
Yeah,
don't know if it was actually Charlie Chaplin,
that's
but
when I got up and refilled my drink. So
well, you didn't miss much. He goes to the bathroom and he sees.
I don't know how he gets in when there's a riot in the front, but
because he just like a police like a rider like shoved a police officer. The police officer hopped over the riot line, and they all went after the police officer to like fight him. And in that kerfuffle, he sneaks under the blockade, and then he's like.
Okay, that's how that happened. Because when I came back, he was in the bathroom with Thomas Wayne.
Yeah, he had dressed up like a bellhop to sneak into the hotel or whatever, and or through the building.
Where did you get the bellhop outfit from?
He stole it. It was he snuck in downstairs and
because you can't really tell me where he got. I'm just gonna assume he killed a bellhop.
Maybe.
And I look, because I know he wasn't wearing a bellhop costume when I left.
He doesn't seem to. He doesn't seem to want to kill the people who are actually like him, the poor and the downtrodden, which is very weird. Because like you think of the Joker, at least the Joker from the comics, or the movie Jokers you've seen, he didn't discriminate against.
Joker. The Joker doesn't discriminate.
Yeah, he just kills people.
He's not totally the Joker yet. He's still trying to find out who he is.
You're right.
That's
true. It's an origin story.
At this point, he has basically 3 different identities. He's the Joker because that's what his idol called him on TV when he was making fun of him for his crap performance that we had to cringe through. Then there was Arthur Fleck, which was what his mom gave him, and then Arthur Wayne, possibly, because now he believes that he is Thomas Wayne's son.
Also, secret identity number 4, he was an abandoned baby, possibly adopted. Who are you, kid?
Exactly.
You have no origin. You have nobody.
Possibly adopted or stolen, one of the two.
It said abandoned baby.
Exactly. So, could have been adopted or stolen. Like, you don't know his mother is not his mother anymore. And that adds to the fact where she abused him. Oh, yeah, and this is where Thomas tells him, oh no, your mother's crazy. He gets upset. He's like, don't talk to my mother like that. No, your mother's crazy and you're adopted. He's just like, what do you mean adopted? Why would you say things like this? And he goes and steals his mother's file from the asylum, and lo and behold, Thomas is telling the truth, and he was adopted.
Was he? Because if he's someone who had that much money, you could
That's
doctor
true.
papers.
That is true. That is actually that's a lot like the Telltale game. Spoilers for the Telltale game. Well, it's a couple years old now, so if you haven't played the Batman Telltale, basically
you never will because the business is under. All right.
Oh, low
Sorry.
blow, low blow. That's a fresh.
Look, I'm still mad that I'm not getting Wolf Among Us 2. Okay, so.
Oh yeah, man. Wolf Among Us. No, I can't. My thoughts. I can't be jumbled.
I still don't know what point you've been trying to make.
Big B Wolf. No. Okay.
I still don't know what point you're trying to make.
I'm just explaining the mother's backstory. Right
you're literally just giving plot details.
Well, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were leading up to a point this entire time. I might have you ramble.
I might have been at first.
Oh my god!
But now, it's a rabbit hole, so I got to go down the rabbit hole.
Oh my god! It's hunt wabbit season. We're hunting wabbits.
Bears have to go down and hunt things. And now I'm down this rabbit hole. I'm gonna catch this rabbit. Oh
my gosh!
So, all in all, he smothers his mother.
Cause she's a smothering mother. She smothered him. He smothered her. Oh my god!
I don't know if she was smothering.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
She was certainly abusive.
She was definitely a smother. Like, Arthur, turn down the TV. Arthur, what was that noise? Arthur, like just like Arthur, where's the mail? Arthur. She was people who. I'm gonna say something that might. I don't know.
Trigger warning.
No, it's not a trigger warning. It's not. I don't know. Maybe it triggers somebody, but it's not. I don't consider it triggering. But their relationship to me, especially because he was so much older, and because we know of their history of his history of being abused by her, or her letting him be abused or whatever. I definitely see her, even though she didn't seem that overbearing, okay, just like everything else in the film where we're not sure about what's the truth and what's reality or whatever. When he was having that whole vision of being on the Murray show, and he was talking about his mother and how she always loved him and blah 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 blah. And then later on in the scene, we see him talk about his dreams of being a comedian with her, and she was like, "Well, don't you need to be funny to be a comedian?" Like, savage, mom. And like, and that struck really close to home. Like,
yeah, that was awkward.
Anyone who's had a parent like that, you felt that, like, ow. So like, I don't like her image of it. I feel like she was an overbearing mother, but his reality was distorted about that, at least for a little while. She controlled the narrative of his life for his entire life, and I think that's smothering. So I think it was poetic.
He didn't even remember being abused.
I know.
And from the pictures, he had to be like 5.
Yeah. So it's poetic justice that he smothered her.
And got away with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like...
Well, as so much as you could get away with something like that, because the police were there literally in the next scene. So...
Were they?
Well, they not the very next scene, but they showed, that was right, and he basically went home, painted his face, stabbed some people, and then was like, I'm going to the Murray show, doing his little dance on the stairs, and the police are just looking like, that's the other thing. I'm sorry for continuously just jumping to a new tangent, but just like, if you really pay, or maybe if you watch the movie again sometime, which I'm sure you will, because you like to rewatch stuff. I'm not like that. But that's probably why I like focus on so many details, because I'm not going to watch this again. But
she's like, I don't want to be this traumatized. I'm super confused.
If you really look at how people looked at him during that film, like, I really like and dislike how this film presented mental illness. Like, the stares he got from people, from the police on the stairs when they're watching him do this dance, when he was on the show, and the people, like, before he had to go out, he started doing his little dance for the curtain raised, and the camera people were staring at him like, look at this freak. Like, they were staring at him, like, throughout the movie.
Because he was acting freakish.
No, throughout the film, there's cases where people are staring at him, like, just staring at him. But he is someone who has a mental illness. That's at least what the film gives us.
But, yeah, we know that, but the people don't. To the people, he's just weird.
I know, I'm saying that there's a point about that. That's a message being sent. That's a message that's, being made there about that. Like, how we treat others in our society. I'm using the term other because that's what something I guess did in college, as we call the excluded people the others in society.
Oh yes, let's go ahead and just give them yet another label.
No, we're
all just people, damn it.
Okay, but they were other. You're treated as other. You're treated as outcast. You're treated as different. Sure, as clowns.
And then, see, this is you wouldn't last.
What are you talking about?
You'd be one of the people.
I'd be one of the clowns. Just because I'm analyzing the scenario doesn't mean.
Over here, give them the others, clowns.
I'm not calling them that. I'm just saying that's what they are. That sounds wrong. No, I'm not literally going up and saying you're other to somebody. I'm just saying there's
just goes outside, slaps someone. You're other.
No. No. See, now you're getting me on a tangent, and I'm tired. I'm sorry. This. I hope this is not a mess. My point is that
it's a total mess.
That it's just very interesting commentary on how we treat people like that and who have mental illness. Not even mental illness, like people on the spectrum. I feel like it was trying to hit a bunch of notes for people who have conditions that might have them looked at twice. I know they're like, when you're in school and there's that kid, that kid who's just the weird kid, and everyone looks at them every time they do something, like tell an off-color joke that nobody else gets or finds funny. And that kid gets harassed. That kid gets bullied. That kid gets mistreated. And they're saying that kid could turn to the Joker, which is what I don't like about it. We
went to very different schools, because that kid in my school people give that kid their space.
I wasn't speaking about my school.
Oh, okay.
No one really got bullied in my school but me. So I wasn't speaking about my school. I was just saying,
I became a Denizen of the night, and then just
exactly. That's why I became a vampire. Anyway. I was just speaking in general, like the stereotype of the outcast and how they're treated and that sort of thing. And that's what I both love that it highlights that, but I also am probably like other people in the media and the news are worried about it highlighting that, because it's almost like saying, well, if you have this tragic backstory, then that kind of justifies some of what, some of your negative behavior, or you turning into the serial killer that, we assumed you were going to be. And I don't think that's okay, because there's plenty of people who have tragic backstories who don't go off and shoot people. I know the first killing was in self-defense. I understand that. But the other ones weren't. So, I'm just... It just reminds me of the, you see the kid on the news, and it's like, well, he was an incel, or he had no friends, he was bullied growing up, and that's why he killed this entire school full of children. Well, you know what? There's plenty of people who get beat every day, and they don't grow up and, slaughter people. So I'm just, it's a fine line you have to walk with that sort of thing. People. No. It's a fine line you have to walk with that sort of thing. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and I hope you don't mind, and I'm assuming we're going to bring this to a close unless you have anything else major to talk about.
Oh, no. Did you get through all your points?
No, the very last thing I want to talk about is a review I read, or that I avoided reading, but saw the headline of before I went to see the movie, and I wanted to see if it matched up with my opinions after I saw the movie. So the headline it's from the Atlantic, written by David Sims. This article is written by him, yes. And his title was "Joker is a very serious drama. No, that's not a compliment." And I was like, damn. So I'm not going to read this so I can get my own opinions and then go back and see it. And I'm not going to read the whole article, but I wrote down some of the highlights from his article that I thought were interesting points. And I don't think I agree with them necessarily, but I just thought it was an interesting perspective. So he called it pompous, grim, and one note.
One note?
Yeah,
okay.
That really jumped out to me. I don't know if he means one note as in it because it was serious all the way through, because I disagree with that. There were moments of levity, but it was uncomfortable levity, but it was still there. Like he literally walked into a glass door. Like that's classic, comedy.
In the movie.
It was literally Three Stooges, like that. Like there's comedy in the movie, so I don't consider it one note.
That's funny. He was being interrogated by the police right beforehand. Like his mother had just had a stroke from being questioned right after the Bruce Wayne thing, and he goes. He's being questioned by the police about the killings, and before they let him go, they're just like, so this thing your boss told us you had, your ex-boss told us you had, this thing where you just laugh all the time, you can't control it. Is that a thing? He just looks at him, he looks insulted, he looks at him like, what do you think? And he starts walking into the hospital, he walks straight into the glass. And I lost it because it was hilarious. And I wasn't expecting it.
Also, the fact that he did that, it was exit only, and the police had to point that out to him.
As someone was exiting.
It also shows, because I've also seen interpretations of the Joker where he's just a criminal mastermind. And Arthur was just straight up idiot sometimes. Like, he was just did dumb stuff.
I can't even. It's hilarious. He outruns. No one catches him in this movie. He outruns literally everybody.
So, except for those
kids.
Except
for the kids. Only because plot. Because as much as he could have caught them kids.
Maybe he got faster the more Joker-like he became.
The more insane you get, the faster you get.
When you don't have reality weighing you down, I guess you can fly.
I guess. Speaking of which, nice segue, the ending.
No, not nice segue. It wasn't done with the article.
Oh.
So he called it pompous, grim, and one note. I just have
55 more points.
No, like 2. And he also said, he brought up the fact that the Joker is typically either scary or campy, and therefore he's saying this movie was straining to ground a character who's become a stand-in for cartoon evil. So by that, I took that to mean that he wanted the Joker to fall to either of those categories. He's like, this is a cartoon, and you're trying to make it too... You're trying to make it too serious. You're trying to weigh him down too much. And wanted him to lean more into maybe his comic book origins.
Okay. To that point, I give you Batman the Animated Series. Okay?
Okay.
For cartoon campiness, this Joker and the cartoon Joker kidnapped Robin, mentally effed him up, and made him his son.
That's true.
If that's not serious on several levels for a cartoon, I don't know what this cartoon campiness is, because the cartoon Joker, the Joker we all know and love, from growing up was serious as a mofo. Like, obviously, this guy's just
Well,
cartoon campiness.
he
What
was
is he? What is he in the 60s?
maybe
He
because
used a gun with a fist on the end of it.
maybe because he was
Pow!
he was referencing Jack Nicholson like as the one of the original Joker, right?
Was he? I thought it was the other guy.
Who's the other guy?
There's another guy. Even when I think of his picture in my head, and it's barely in color.
Doesn't that
He had like poofy green hair.
I don't know. The point is that he was like scary Joker as he labeled him, and he was saying that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker does not fit into that, and it was trying too hard to make it too serious. And I don't see it that way.
First off, there are 3 different Jokers. 3 different ones. 3. And those are 2 different Jokers in and of itself. There is a campy Joker that was from the 60s. This Joker, the Joker we got in this, is not that Joker.
I know that's his point. I don't know what he wanted out of the movie necessarily, because he doesn't really go into that other than saying what I'm gleaning from is that he wanted to lean more into his comic book origins. But I don't see anything wrong with doing something different. Why would I want to go see everything that's been done already before? We always complain that no one has an original idea, and while the Joker's not an original idea, I like an original origin story for him. So I don't see that as like, I had no problem with the direction they took this Joker. So that I officially got to. I think I got to the end of my notes.
You think?
I think that was one of my paper notes.
Have one more note? I swear you only went through 2.
I wrote Christ.
Christ?
Yes. I think they represented him as a Christ figure.
Oh, at the end?
Yeah, because he like got resurrected, kind of came back from the dead, and then had his arms like outstretched on the car like he was on a cross. It's not like super relevant to mention that. I just like, I don't know, maybe because of my background in learning and stuff, that from reading literature, what I was always taught is like, noticing Christ-like figures, because that's, sending a message about so-and-so if he's elevated to a Christ-like level. And I thought it was very interesting that he became a Christ-like figure for the downtrodden, despite the fact he was doing such horrible things to people. And I'm like, but I get it though. Like, I'm not mad at him for killing people, but I should be. And that's probably why I'm torn about my feelings about this movie, because I don't know what to feel. It made me question my own morality.
And here's what I want to get at: the ending. Did it happen or didn't it?
What part of the ending? The mental hospital part?
No, all of the ending.
Oh, do you think the mental hospital was supposed to be him flashing back to, like, he said you wouldn't get the joke, blah blah blah, when he said it to the therapist at the end?
We don't know how much of this movie was delusion.
Yeah.
So do you think the ending actually happened? Do you think he was actually on the show? I think he was actually on the show.
Oh, I definitely think he was actually on the show.
Do you think he killed the guy though?
I definitely think he did.
You definitely think he did?
Yes. The only thing that
But do you think because everything after that, the whole Christ thing, do you think that was in his head? Because from that point I can see it diverging because of what happened. Okay, so what happens? So this is how we know the ending actually happened and it wasn't a delusion, because Bruce Wayne's parents do die, and we do see the crime alley situation. We see Joe Chill shoot Bruce Wayne's parents in the midst of all this chaos. So we see Batman essentially being born. So we know that all this actually happened because we're seeing all of this from the Joker's perspective. But for us to see that specific incident, which Joker literally had almost nothing to do with, it was just a result of his actions. It was chaos taking its course. So we know that it happened, but we don't know exactly when. We can tell that he probably did kill him on air. And he did admit, he admitted to being the murderer. He got his whole speech off. All that probably happened. We don't know if he actually killed his idol, because for me, from that point on, from the shooting of the idol, he was taken in by the cops. Now from there's a branch. Either he was crashed into by the van and his people saved him, everyone else died in the crash, and he was saved. And that's when the whole Christ thing came into play. and that's when he did the whole smile with his own blood and made himself the Joker. But he was still captured in the end anyway. So either he got saved and all of that, the cheering and him parading in front of all his legions of fans, that either happened or he was taken straight to the mental hospital, in which case there we got
the
our
legions
ending.
of fans are a delusion, but he thinks there's people out there cheering for him,
Exactly.
cheering him on. I would say I'm not sure. That's what the point of the a lot of the stuff in the movie when I was mentioning earlier about being out of time in the movie, like all that being like not knowing when reality is happening and when it's not. I mean, obviously you get some hints, but like when I got to the end, I was thinking maybe this whole thing was delusional. Maybe the entire joke he was having in his head
was the movie.
Like, you wouldn't get the joke. I just had a funny thing. What if I did this? Like, and I just kicked off a revolution. Like, that's such a crazy thought to have.
And then he murders her.
But but he literally said to the first therapist, all my thoughts are negative. So what if this whole movie was him just having...
It could have been. It could have been. He could have been the one that killed Bruce Wayne's parents in the alley.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it.
I don't know about that.
No, look, because think about it. How else would he know? Because he went thought back. It was a joke between me and him.
Mm-hmm.
And when he said him, he was thinking back to Bruce Wayne.
That's true.
And his dead parents in the alley.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he was thinking about.
So at least we got a flash to that.
Exactly.
To tell us that's
so we got an allusion to that.
Mm-hmm.
So we could definitely put together that A plus B. He could have been. It all could have been one big delusion. He could have actually done this whole thing. Set off this whole riot and been just captured after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
He could have been captured when we saw that he was captured and everything else that from when he was laughing and looking at the riots in the streets, he could have just been taken straight to the asylum and didn't get hit by the ambulance. That could have been a delusion. Or, heck, he could have not been captured until after he killed Bruce Wayne's parents.
True. I mean...
He still very much had a grudge against Thomas Wayne.
Yeah.
So he could have been the one to do it, and that's why when he goes back to think of that joke, he thinks so clearly about it.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell that that's what he's thinking about when he says him.
Mm-hmm.
He's thinking about that. So he knows it happened.
Mm-hmm.
He knows Thomas Wayne is dead.
Yeah.
He can picture it in his mind. And we know it happened because that's how Batman is made. How else would the Joker know about that if he didn't have knowledge of it beforehand? And he gets killed at the same time the whole Joker Christ thing is happening. So how else would he know about it?
That's a good point. It's a good point. It's like that's completely reimagining everything you knew about how the Joker and Batman are connected.
Exactly. They really are two sides of the same coin. Joker was essentially born the same night Batman was.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, I was going to say I've hit all my talking points. Have you hit your major things that whatever you remember coming into your head?
I was only responding to you, so if you're done, then...
Well, then I think
that last thing was the last big thing in
well,
my
that's
head.
the end of the movie, so it's a good ending point. I thought you made a good point with it. So I was going to say to just wrap this up, I guess if you're going to give it a star rating...
Oh, 5 stars.
5 stars. I didn't even give you the number of stars. This is out of 10 stars. You only get it 50%. Oh my goodness.
Full
Stars?
Full. See again.
Oh my god. Man, I wish I hadn't brought up the rating system because I don't know what to rate it.
I rate like a 7.
No, I rate it. It's not. You just made it out of 5. So what does the 7 mean?
No. I said 5 out of 5. Then I said full. What are we gonna give us? Gets full.
I rated confused jumble thought out of confused jumble thoughts.
So she rates it a full too.
I rated a movie worth seeing. I'm not regretting that I went to see it at all. And it just put me in a weird place, and maybe that's because of my own thoughts about how we treat mentally ill people in our society, my own issues with anxiety, because it made me feel anxious watching the film, and I try to avoid things that make me anxious and hide away like a good little vampire.
All sorts of anxiety in this film. Like,
so
Jesus.
I rate it uncomfortable out of 10.
You know what? I like that. Uncomfortable out of uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable out of 10. So that was our thoughts on Joker. Sorry, this is a bit all over the place. It's just that's kind of what my thoughts feel like right now. But
definitely.
But we hope to What am I saying? I'm tired. My brain just left me. No, that's because the Joker has me all jumbled. I was going to say, join us next time is what I meant to say. Before this gets completely off the rails, I am, well, you should start with you. That's how we're going to do this.
You have been listening to the RNS podcast.
Just say your name. Not again.
I am Yoko.
And I'm Nox.
We'll talk to you guys later.
Join us on Tuesdays.
Yes, on Tuesdays. Or whatever days you want us. When do you want us? When do you want to hear our
We'll be posting on Tuesdays, whether you join us or not. All right.
All right.
Play us out.